Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Robin and today we're doing my November wrap up. I don't know if you guys can see, I'm wearing my Schitt's Creek holiday sweater. It says, you just fold it in. Fold in the cheese. I can't show you everything, David. It's like my favorite episode. Just fold it in. Anyway, I read 10 books in November. A lot of them were really good. I participated in the Game of Tomes mini round, the origin story, and then I also participated kind of in nonfiction November a little bit. So we'll get into all of that and more. So I'll just first start off with the books that I read for a Game of Tomes readathon. So there were 3 prompts, and the first prompt was an anticipated read. And for that, I picked up A Psalm of Storms and Silence by Roseanne A. Brown. This is the sequel to A Song of Wraiths and Ruins. And I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. This was a great ending to the duology. I will say that for like 40% of the book, I was fucking confused because there's a lot that happens in the first book. And I think that if you don't read them close enough, or like at least do a reread, a refresh of some sort before you jump into this, there will be backstory things that you may not remember and you'll just be like, what's going on? How does this tie into everything else? But it's not like major things that would like take away from the story, but I was confused. That could also be a me thing, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But this was good. This was a great ending for Karina and Malik. It was like everything got worse before it got better, which obviously, because if it got better in the beginning, then what's the point of the book? I can't say a whole lot about what happens because obviously it's a sequel, but I will say it was a fun ride. I really enjoyed seeing the character growth and the 2 main characters, seeing the friendships that they developed along the way with some of the other characters from the first book, and some new characters that are now my favorites for sure. So I really enjoyed this. This was my most anticipated read of the whole year, and I was like waiting for it. And it came, I got it into my hands, and I devoured it as quickly as I could. So I would recommend picking up the series. Also for Game of Tomes, the other prompt for Game of Tomes was to pick a book that no one really talks about. And for that, I picked up Death, a novel by George Pendle. This was an interesting book for me because if you've been around for a while, you know that I don't really do rereads like ever. And so this is the first time I picked this book up since, I don't know, 2017. And I loved it when I read it the first time. And I loved it again. Like, I was dying laughing. We were doing reading sprints and I was trying so hard to like keep my laughter in. I was laughing so hard through the whole book. But this is about Death. His parents are Sin and his parents are Satan and Sin. His dad is Satan, his mom is Sin. And so they're living in hell at the Palace of Pandemonium until one day God creates this new place called Earth. I think that's what it's called. And so Satan is like, pack it up, fam. We've got a new place to go. And so they head to Earth, and then just chaos ensues. Well, you know, you're here. And so it is funny. Death becomes enthralled with all things dying. He does not kill. He's not a killer. He is just the person that collects souls from the here and now to the thereafter. The characters, everyone in this is hilarious. God is so funny. Jesus, hilarious. He is the most annoying person in the book, but it's so funny. And if somebody else reads this, please read this. If you read it, let me know what you think about it. I loved it. It was a good time. I ended up giving this 5 stars all over again because I had such a good time. And it encouraged me to reread some of my favorites because I never do it. And it's always because I have a fear that they may not be my favorite anymore if I reread it. But this proved me wrong. So there we go. Expect more rereads from me. Then my next prompt was to read a book with red on the cover, so I picked up Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This was gifted to me by Ray, and y'all, you guys, I had a fucking fantastic time with this. Victor Vale may now be my new imaginary bookish crush. I don't do this. I don't really do this. But, I mean, Victor, call me. But this is about Victor Vale and his friend Eli. I don't remember Eli's name. Eli Ever. There we go. Eli Ever. And they are both college students, and I think that they're preparing like their thesis or dissertation or something. And they are trying to find out if what makes an extraordinary, a person with supernatural abilities, and they find out like if like some things happen, then you can like create an extraordinary. So they go out on this search to create one themselves, and it happens. And then, man, friendships are questioned and relationships tested. There's one side where one person is very self-righteous, and then they think that they are doing what is right, and then somebody else is like, I don't think so. I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna stop this right here. And it's fantastic. There is a sequel to this, and obviously I haven't read it yet, but I will definitely be picking it up. Vengeful, I think. And I don't know, it felt like this ended perfectly, so I don't know what Vengeful might be like. This was near perfect, so I gave it 4.5 stars. And then for Nonfiction November, I read a couple of things. I read How to Be Black by Baratunde Thurston. This was also really funny. I was reading this kind of at the same time as I was reading Death, so I was just laughing the entire time I was reading those two books. This is a collection of essays about various ways to be black. And obviously this is not a how-to guide, so non-black people, don't pick this book up thinking that this will help you to be black. This is not that. So this talks about some of the stereotypes that are placed on black people and what people expect black people to be like. But we go through topics about how to be the black friend and what it means to be an Oreo. He also talks about how to be the black employee, and he goes through like the different types of black employees. That was hilarious to me. There was like one spot talking about how to speak on the behalf of all black people, and it had me dying of laughter. He says, not thinking about the consequences, the non-black person asking like a question like, what do black people think about X topic, simply reaches for the closest representative he or she can find. But for those unprepared for the call of duty, it can be a traumatic experience, leading to episodes of self-doubt, anger, and dry skin. And I could not stop laughing. I was wheezing, okay? Wheezing. Because, yes, those are the side effects of being unprepared to speak on behalf of all black folk all the time. But yeah, this was funny. It was a great look into the multifaceted lives of black people. We are not a monolith. And he just talks about, you know, what it's like growing up in predominantly white spaces and how he navigated through those spaces. Meanwhile, he just celebrates his own blackness and the variety of blackness in America. And it was great. Then I read When Breath Becomes Air by, it's here. It's right here. But I read When Breath Becomes Air, and this is about a doctor who gets diagnosed with cancer, and he is just about to really like get into his career, and he's going through all of these feelings where on one side he was, you know, the doctor, and now he is the patient, and he reflects on his life as a patient and seeing what the medical side looks like from the view of a patient, and just really what does it mean to like live your last months and years. What do you want out of life? I thought it was a phenomenal book. I may have been cutting some onions while I was reading it because, I don't know, my eyes just, they just wouldn't stop tearing up. It was so well written. It was heartfelt. It was a great look at what is life and how do you want to live it. I had a really good time with that one. That sounds like a weird thing to say. It's like a book about death, and I had a really good time, but I did. I really enjoyed it. Then I read All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. This is a look at his life growing up and questioning and his identities as a black kid, as what does it mean to be a boy? What does it mean to be queer? And stepping into his own identities. And I will say, I appreciated that this book was not just about like traumas he faced, but he also celebrated the joyful parts of the identities that he wanted to call his own. And I appreciated that, because some books are just like, I was black and so everything was terrible. And it's like, no, there's joy in your black life. There's, you know, joy trying to find out who you are and how you want to identify. Not saying that there's joy all the time and not for everyone, but like, it doesn't always need to be traumatic and sad and all the time. So I did appreciate that he was able to celebrate some aspects of his journey. Again, this is also a collection of essays that focus on varying parts of his childhood and like not too much of his adulthood, but like maybe like college-y years. So like that's the span of time that we really focus on. This was an excellent read and I really enjoyed that. So I listened to Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones, a book about kids, a group of friends who play a prank on their other friend with like this mannequin that they have. They set him up, and then the mannequin gets up and leaves. After that, wildness, craziness ensues. I was reading it and I was just like, what the fuck did he just say? I enjoyed every minute of it. It was so fantastic. I did not see some of the turns happening, but I will definitely be reading more from him because, wow, so good. Then I read Date Me Bryson Keller by the person who wrote Date Me Bryson Keller. And this is about Bryson Keller, who is dared that whoever asks him out on Monday morning, he has to date for the week. So, you know, girls are rushing to get to him every Monday so that he will date them for the week. There's like a whole thing. There's like a social media like presence about it. And then one week, this guy, do not remember his name. Doesn't matter. This guy asked Bryson Keller out, and so they date for the week. It was really cute. They were both exploring, you know, their own personal identities. Are they gay? Are they bi? Are they straight? Like, you know, but it was a cute little story. I gave it 3 stars. It was a good time for what it was. Also, my brain was like just leaking out of my ears because I was so swamped with work that I just need something light and cute and not heavy to listen to. And this was a good one. I read The Favorite Sister by Jessica Knoll. I think I gave this one like 3 stars. I was in the middle of a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills binge. I binged 3 seasons in maybe less than a week. It wasn't more than a week. But I binged 3 seasons and then I read this, and it was almost kind of perfect because this is about a group of women who are on a reality show called Gold Diggers. Each of the women are championing some kind of business, and so you're following them in their lives in New York. You're not gonna like any of the characters. None of them. Not a single character. There's no one to like in this book because you see all of what goes on behind the scenes of like filming a TV show, a reality series, and then all of the messiness. And then this opens up with one of the characters dying. This is not a spoiler because it literally happens in the first chapter. One of the characters dies, and then you like rewind and you're trying to figure out what happened. Where did things turn left? I think because I was in the middle of like my reality TV show binge, I was very interested in this. But I had a good time. Will I read this again? No. But would I recommend this to somebody who likes reality shows and thrillers? Yes. Yes, I would. Not last, but it was last. It was not least. Maybe it was. Actually, it was. This was my least favorite read of the month. It was Madame Tussaud, a novel of the French Revolution. I really liked the French Revolution. It's very weird. The French Revolution and like the Tudors, it's my jam. Henry VIII was a fucking mess. This is following Madame Tussaud. She is creating this, well, she has a wax museum where she creates the figures, and she's trying to get in good with the royal family so that they'll come and visit her wax museum, and then it'll create all of this, like, you know, basically advertisement and buzz so that other people will want to come and see. But then she gets thrown into the mix with what is happening with the French Revolution. Nobody wants to be on the side of the royals because then, you know, your head's coming off. But at the same time, she is like, they're not that bad, and I don't know what the problem is. She was actually kind of annoying as a character because she was all business, which is fine, but then she forfeited her losing the man that she loved, all to like save herself in these wax figures. And it was like girl, get up out of France because you could die. Like, seriously, you could die. She would go up against angry mobs who were trying to like get their hands on the wax figures of like the royal family or other high-ranking political people at that time. And she was like, no one's gonna burn down my museum. And it's like, you against 1,000 angry people with pitchforks and like flame thingies. I don't know. I think you should just give them the wax figure. That's just me. And so I actually listened to the whole thing, and I wish that I had DNF'd it, and I had wanted to multiple times, but I was like, no, maybe it gets better because, you know, towards the end, maybe she's going to the guillotine, even though I know that she doesn't because history tells us she doesn't. But, you know, this book could have taken a complete left, but it didn't. And the ending was anticlimactic, and I was just like, okay. I read this. We read this. But you know what? I'm glad that I read it because it was on my Goodreads want to read since 2013 when I started a Goodreads account. And I was like, I'm going to read one of these books that I put on here from forever ago. And I did. That was it. I did it. And those are all the books that I read this month. I had a pretty good time. I enjoyed most of the things that I read. Did you guys enjoy what you read in November? Are you guys enjoying what you're reading now? What are you reading now? What was your favorite book from November? If you've read any of these books and you want to talk about it, leave it down below, especially Vicious, because I loved it so much. So much. And if you have anything else you want to say, leave it down in the comments. And until next time, bye.